Sam Curet of SpyCloud. Thanks for joining me today. The speed and volume of data is what people in this field tell me all the time is their biggest challenge right now. How are you seeing organizations that are successful at addressing both of those issues doing so?
Well, it's a benefit and it's a challenge at the same time. And so the volume of data and the speed at which it comes in means that you don't have to task new collection assets to go after it. And that's one of the things that makes it faster. But the challenge is you have all of that information available and it can create a level of noise. And so that's why taking kind of a layering approach to this of how do I get to the signal by doing an initial search? Maybe I'm approaching something from the perspective of a topic or a geography first, kind of working from big to small. And then ultimately, you need access to source information to evaluate it. And in that way, open source intelligence is like any other intelligence discipline whatsoever, is the analyst needs to be able to evaluate the source, not just so he can trust whether or not it's true or fake, but context is a little bit richer than that. You need to be able to understand what the source would actually know about a particular question, and breach data is a great example of that. There are maybe 70,000 different breaches that are floating around, and there's more every day, but each breach is going to have different kinds of information in it. Like, for example, one of the LinkedIn breaches that happened in 2014, it could have email addresses and it could have account level information, but it might also have address and business role information from that time. But if you don't have the source information that's going to say, hey, when did this actually happen? Was this LinkedIn data that was scraped and then got breached from a sales aggregator company? Or is this just a social media scrape that just has kind of username data in it? All of this type of source information is something that the analyst needs to have at their fingertips to take advantage of the speed and getting to context. The problem that really creates a challenge is when targeters can't take OSINT and fuse it with other things. And sometimes this is when parallel reconstruction is what takes up the majority of the time, is because you know something at a different classification level, but you can't necessarily use certain pieces of that knowledge in your OSINT research. So it's difficult, but it's something that's getting better all the time, is the ability to get the signal out of the noise.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go next, is what are the steps that organizations are taking to do that, to separate signal from noise? And do you see a positive trajectory in that way? It sounds like you do.
I do. And it's exposing the source data, making it really, really fast and easy to get to so that the analyst understands what it is that they're actually looking at and how they can trust that data and what they should trust that data about. For example, a signal may be coming from a particular source or a particular selector, but if I'm not expecting to get anything more than linkage between a phone number and an email address, I know I can trust that because I know the source is a source that had phone numbers and email addresses together for the purpose of accessing that platform. And I understand why those two things are correlated and aggregated together.
Given the volume of data and the speed at which that volume is accelerating, is curation and determination of what's signal and what's noise in the first place, before you do the separation, is that becoming more of a problem, or is that something that automation can help address, or what does that look like right now?
I think it's something that automation is allowing you to kind of get through things that are manual tasks. That's not a difficult manual task, but is very manual. Automation helps me out a lot with that. Like, for example, domain characterization. I may be looking at 350 websites and generally not know what they are unless I navigate to that website. Now I can kind of learn more about it by just throwing a list into something that's going to give me that signal back. But really, it's it's a combination of that automation together with the fact that if the source data is very, very quickly available to me as an analyst, that allows me to determine what I should expect to know from it, or why I can or can't trust it, or why maybe I can't trust it to answer question A, but I have full confidence in using that information to answer question C. And that, I think, is platforms and vendors and tools are being much more transparent about the sourcing of the data, allowing the analyst to make that judgment without having to manually collect it themselves, without having to do those tasks that could be readily automated.
Sam, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining
Thank
me
you so
today.
much for having me. This was great.